Hello and a very warm welcome back to the garden. This video is all about what I think is the unsung hero of kitchen gardens, and those are annual herbs. Annual herbs not only offer loads of flavour but a whole multitude of other benefits for us gardeners and also for the wildlife around us. So this video I want to dive in deep into my recent favourite gardening subject, which is herbs, which is what I'm surrounded by here, and show you exactly how powerful these plants are. On a personal level, I felt that last year was a real breakthrough in terms of my relationship with annual herbs. I felt myself using them so much more in cooking, and so this year and this growing season I'm trying to grow 10 times more herbs than last year for so many reasons, and we'll get the most obvious one out of the way. Fresh flavour, garnishes. I've got some parsley here. Parsley is one of the most obvious ones. Just a great thing to add onto salads and as garnishes. I use coriander a lot more than parsley, and sometimes if I'm cooking something I'll chuck a big handful in towards the end just to add a really nice depth of flavour. Now I think if you're looking at crop productivity on a square foot basis, out of all of the things that you can grow in your kitchen garden, I honestly believe that annual herbs pack the most punch. They have the most impact in terms of productivity, taste, flavour, depth, and also versatility in the kitchen, which is why they're perfect for small spaces. If I ever tell anyone who's starting to grow food and they just have a patio or something and they want one thing that's going to make the biggest impact in their cooking, then for me it's herbs. And it's not just using the fresh leaves either. A great benefit of many annual herbs is you get more than one type of harvest, not only the leaves, but also the seeds. And the great thing about seeds is that these are things that you can just let flower. This is parsley here on its second year, so it's running to seed. I'm going to let the set seed dry the seeds, and that means I can store them for the long term and use them in cooking, especially over the winter months and the hungry gap. I'm just here and there's a honeybee pollinating this coriander confetti, and coriander, if there's only one herb that I could save seed from, it would absolutely be coriander, because you can use the green coriander seeds nice and fresh. It's a bit of a delicacy. It's not something you can buy in any kind of shop. And the other thing, you can just dry them out and use those coriander seeds for your spice mixes, and also all the pickling you need to do towards the end of the growing season. Now, I don't know about you, but with annual herbs, I've never seen them affected by any kind of pest or disease. And that's a great thing, because you don't have to designate a specific section if you're doing a planting plan. Instead, grow all of your main crops, like I've got onions here, and whenever you see a bit of a gap, whether it's on the edge of a bed, in a corner, at the end, that's a great opportunity to plant your herbs, because they don't need much space and they just kind of spread out and are so productive. So in terms of filling little gaps, I think this is where annual herbs really come into their own. Perhaps one of the most surprising discoveries for me whilst growing annual herbs is just how much beneficial insects, especially pollinators like hoverflies, bumblebees, honeybees, seem to love herbs that run to seed. I've got dill and coriander here, and I walked in and I scared away around 5 bees. And it's amazing because I can hear this hive of activity, and it's brilliant because I don't have to plant flowers to attract pollinators. Eventually, or things like dill and coriander can run to seed quite easily. I'm not only getting that harvest, that edible harvest at the start and the seeds at the end, but in the midpoint, I'm attracting all of the pollinators into the garden, in this case into the polycrub, which will then hopefully move them on to other things like cucumbers and all of the other plants and nasturtiums elsewhere. And I just think that's a really nice special benefit where we're getting an additional purpose even though we're getting crops either side. So it's like a kind of pollinator helping sandwich. For me, I have a very big interest in looking at how other climates, societies, cultures grow food, and how I can take those ideas and methods and adapt them for my climate. And in over the last year, I've become absolutely fascinated with the methods of Korean natural farming, partly helped by reading Nigel's book, The Regenerative Grower's Guide to Garden Amendments, which I recommended as a really good resource earlier this year. And one of those things which you might have already seen me talk about on this channel is making something called a fermented plant juice. And I think there could be some huge untapped potential when it comes to growing herbs in order for us to make our own completely organic, natural, plant-based amendments that we can feed our plants with. And I'm looking on his Appendix C at the back of the book, which is for nutrient analysis of fermented plant juice, like I did for the nettle, which is a really good thing to start with. And I was looking here, and I've got dill next to me, and Nigel actually did an analysis of dill, and his analysis suggests that dill could potentially have more potassium than comfrey, which makes me wonder, what could we do if we did a fermented plant juice of parsley, for example, of coriander, of borage? It would be really fascinating as a bit of a project to really dive in and see if there's particular things, like there might be something that's high in phosphorus, which is a very important nutrient, that we can extract from the crops that we're growing to help other crops within the garden. And if you're interested in doing something like this, then on Nigel's website you can actually get involved and do your own analysis and amendments, so we can build a massive database that gardeners can use to get a great idea of how we can improve our soil and the health of our plants by using the things that are already growing in our environment. One of the best things about annual herbs, especially your main leafy ones, I'm transplanting some coriander here, is that they're just so simple to grow. You can either sow them direct, but my tendency is, I've got dill here as well, is to just fill a tray with some multi-purpose peat-free compost or some homemade compost, and then very thinly I'll sow 7 to 10 seeds. I'll then water it, let it grow, and then I'll plant them around 4 to 5 inches apart. I'm just using up these old pots, and you can see I'm being very rough, but they're going to grow. They're really tough plants. They're not kind of little finicky plants, which is another benefit. They're very resilient. And yeah, I just let them grow, let them have a couple of true leaves, and then I'll plant them out in their final growing position. But the biggest tip I want you to take away from this video is, if you're growing herbs, the best way to ensure continuous cropping is to sow little and often. So every 2 to 3 weeks, just start a new batch of seeds so you can have seedlings. And that means even when things do run to seed, you're just going to get that continuous production, and it couldn't be simpler. It's quite amazing in the space of a year how much I've discovered about annual herbs, and I feel it's just the beginning. I'm trying new things like cumin and caraway this year just to see what is possible. So I hope you found this inspiring. There's still plenty of time to sow things like coriander, parsley and dill, and if you're looking for any other ideas for really productive crops that you can sow this month in July, then check out this video. I hope your growing season is going really well, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.